We all experience challenging and difficult situations in life. In the face of these complexities, it is not always clear how to respond, what to do, or what to avoid. It's easy to get stuck in these moments and stop moving forward in life. Wholeness with Naomi is a program that explores our experiences with such encounters and provides tools and strategies that can enable anyone facing these hardships to continue walking their path in life. We can't wait to meet you on this journey. Tune in, your life is about to change for the better. Welcome to our program, Wholeness with Naomi, where we talk about different and sometimes difficult situations that may come our way. More importantly, we talk about the tools that you can use to be able to navigate in these difficult and different parts you may be finding yourself in. When we receive good news, there's usually one person that we think of, my pastor. When there's death in the family, my pastor. When there's someone that is sick in the family and we're needing comfort, we're needing support in terms of prayers, it's my pastor. And this is for those of the Christian faith or even other religions. Today we want to talk about the person that is walking with us, that is guarding, watching over us, and being with us in the difficult and sometimes the happy moments with us. Joining us on the show today is Bishop Sibiya. Welcome, sir, to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Welcome, thanks.
So we're going to go right into it. Today we're talking about the pastor.
Oh, yes.
When we see the pastor on the podium, he's looking or she's looking well dressed, eloquent, and well posed. Do they face challenges?
I think pastors do face a lot of challenges. In fact, I think they are at the forefront of life's battles.
Okay.
Yeah, when we talk of personal battles and also corporate battles for the whole sheepfold. So pastors do meet a lot of challenges and problems.
In their own lives.
Yes.
So this is also when they're caring other people.
Yes.
That must be quite challenging.
Oh, yes, it is. It is, definitely.
Okay. So this is now behind the scenes. Maybe let's just go a bit in detail.
Yeah.
Like what form of challenges do they face? They are carrying the ministry.
Yeah.
They're carrying everyone else and themselves and their families too.
Well, I want to think of maybe the first one would be solitude.
Okay.
Yeah, loneliness, where you might be around a lot of people, but you feel lonely. You see, people sometimes are married, but they're lonely. You're in a group of people, but you're lonely because you are at the top and you're supposed to be the one who has all the solutions. So you can't run to anyone to say, I'm also having a problem. So ultimately, you become very lonely even in a place where people are gathering. Yeah, so that would be the first. Talk of financial issues, talk of personal marriage, personal relationships, family life, talk of personal spiritual life. Yes, and so on, so on.
That is quite a lot to deal with. So in other words, they are also not exempted from life's challenges.
Yes.
They are also going through the notions of life as we are also going through them as well.
Yes, sure.
But does the expectations that people place on them, does it put a burden on them?
Well, it does. Expectation to be on point all the time, expectation to perform. When you're a pastor, like I said, you're supposed to have all the solutions. You're supposed to be hearing from God. And so people come to you with issues, problems, and you're supposed to be the man who is always up there. You know everything. And yet, people do not actually appreciate the fact that we do not know it all. Yeah.
That is quite profound. We do not know it all. From your sharing, you spoke about many things that a pastor does within the community, within the church, and at an individual level. I'm just thinking of stress. I'm thinking of burnout. How do they manage that?
Well, I think it depends with which side of the pastoral we are talking about. You talk of probably two main sides. Let's talk about the main line and talk about the newer Pentecostal, kind of small churches that we have. with the main line, it's all set. You have time to rest and all of that. But with the newer Pentecostal churches, we have big problems. For starters, church is treated as your personal wife, not the wife of Christ. So you can't leave your wife with another man for too long. So even when it comes to rest, you can't rest because you have to be up and about doing stuff. And because of that, we now see a lot of pastors developing health challenges, blood pressure, straight-related issues, ulcers, and all of that, depression because of that. So pastors basically don't, on that level, they don't kind of get some time to rest.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so I guess to overcome it, there is need for systems to be put within the local churches.
Okay.
Yeah, to have the pastor rest right from on a daily basis. Like, today I've been to work, I need time to rest. Probably 2.5 hours where you are doing absolutely nothing. Weekly basis where you have a day. Many pastors take Monday to be their off day. On a monthly basis, you might need a few days to just rest and recuperate. Then on a yearly basis, probably 30 full days where a pastor just goes out, rests, and probably the only thing that they do is personal spiritual development, which is reading the Bible for their own benefit, not to look for a sermon.
Yeah. That is quite profound. But there are certain key takeaway points from your sharing. The first one, you spoke about the mainline churches and the Pentecostal churches. It sounded like the mainline churches have more structure, which the Pentecostal churches do not have.
Yes.
So it's easier for one who's in the mainline to be able to rest within the systems that are already there in the church. But that is something that is not there within the Pentecostal churches.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Is it something that can be changed or improved?
I think it can be changed because I think at a certain point within the main line, there were no systems. So I guess the problem sometimes with, especially the newer Pentecostal churches, is everything is interpreted from a spiritual point of view. Yeah. So you then find them not giving too much emphasis on other things except the spiritual. For example, a pastor will faint on a Sunday morning. Everyone will bring with themselves prayer towels and pray for the pastor. It's like the pastor is under demonic attack, and yet probably the blood pressure has just shot up because they are not resting or something like that. So you then realize that within the mainline churches, they have gone through these things for many years. Many of the mainline churches in our nation, for example, I have had their presence here for over 100 years. They've gone through all of these things, and they understand that a human being is not just spirit, but you are also soul and body. And you need to take care of all of the aspects of your human life.
Thank you so much for that sharing. Viewers, let's take a short break to join me in the next segment. Welcome back, viewers, to our program, Wholeness with Naomi. Before we went on a short break, Bishop Sibiya was sharing with us some of the challenges and also some of the tools that pastors can use to recover from burnout. And you mentioned that one thing that is there that one needs to be mindful of is to know that there is the mind, there is the physical body, and the spirit as well. And all of those, they have needs that need to be taken care of. Maybe just also share with us, what do the physical needs, what does taking care of the physical needs look like?
All right, for starters, before I do that, I would love to say that your body is the license that you have to transact on the earth.
Okay.
So without your body, you can't be preaching. Imagine a situation where you come to church, then pastor is supposed to preach, he's not there, but the voice just comes out of the speakers. Everyone will run for dear life.
That's true.
So because when you don't have a body, you are not allowed to transact on the earth. So your body becomes a very important aspect of human life. Also, we need to know that body is not flesh.
Okay.
Yeah,
What is it?
Flesh, we are talking of the works of the flesh.
Okay.
So many people, especially the Pentecostals, they hate the body because they believe the body is the flesh, the works of the flesh.
Okay.
You see, so these are two different things. The body is actually a gift that God has given us, the license that He's given us to be able to do things on the earth. And so, well, talk of the body. When you wake up, obviously, you might want to go into your spiritual things in the morning, but then just after that, for example, personally, I then take to do a few of exercises so as to stay strong. That is after taking a lot of water.
Okay.
Yes, just to clean the system. Then apart from that, I have to check my diet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
critical.
you're mindful.
I'm mindful of that. I'm deliberate about what I eat, about what I drink, about what I consume in the physical, so as to remain for as long as is possible the way that I am now. Yeah. Just a few days ago, I was talking to one of the great bishops. So he says to me, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 47. He says, "No, you look 29. I said, "It's the grace of God. Plus, you need to be mindful of what you are doing." So, yeah, that's what I think. On a physical level, you need to do all of that and much more.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the emotional level? They are supporting everyone emotionally.
Yes.
How do they take care of themselves at that level?
Firstly, I guess if you're married, your spouse becomes a very critical, aid to your emotional well-being.
Okay.
Yeah. Then, apart from that, because challenges in marriage can actually result in more challenges or more problems, as it were, in terms of the emotional aspect. So you might need professional help. And I think it's an area where, as pastors, we have a problem because everyone is supposed to be coming to us.
Now it's you opening up to someone.
You see. So it becomes very hard for me to go and tell a professional counselor, "Mama, we are not well. I am feeling depressed. I feel like killing myself." We can't, because we believe the next day it's in the newspapers and people are saying, "How can Apostle Pride CB be in such a mess?" You see, so ultimately we bottle up things, and that's how probably we die young. Yeah.
But I think as you're sharing that, it is also important to know that going for professional services is actually a very safe space.
Oh, yes.
Even by law, they are not allowed to share anything that is shared within that counseling room. So where you're finding it hard to either open up, go for professional services,
Oh, yeah.
such that you're able to get your needs met through that. Let's go on to the spiritual. You mentioned a bit where you were talking about getting time to rest, but as you're resting, you're also nourishing your spirit for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Any other things that one can do?
Well, obviously, taking time in your personal devotions, that's studying the word, and the emphasis for yourself, not for ministry. Studying the word, taking time to pray, taking time to, go out for meditation. I think meditation is one thing that's not really talked about in the Christian circles, but that is very, very critical. When you meditate upon the word, I think it helps. Listening to tapes, having some other people to mentor you. The Bible is very clear about mentorship. 1 Corinthians, you may have as many as 1,000 mentors. As a pastor, you need someone to mentor you in terms of marriage, in terms of your own personal growth spiritually, and the like. We talk of attending school, going to school. I think it's very, very critical. Many of us, the younger ones, we believe we are taught everything by the Holy Spirit.
I've heard that statement before.
Yeah.
And there are verses that support it too.
Oh yes, oh yes. You see, the Bible can be used to support anything. Yeah. So, but I think it's also very critical for us to go to school and to learn. Why would I go up the mountains to search for a revelation that has been revealed to someone else before? So I can actually then get that revelation, then take time to pray for other things. You see, yeah, so that's basically what I think that it can actually help us as pastors.
What can pastors do for fun?
Take a walk,
Okay.
hire a jumping castle.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we are actually planning on that with my wife, but in a space where all of you guys are not there, because we all have that inner child.
That's true.
And at 47, I actually want to be in a jumping castle or do certain stuff. I think everything, as long as it's not sin, is permissible.
That's good.
I also tend to watch a lot of comedy. Yeah, not church comedy, just comedy, probably. You know, it helps me. I watch comedy, usually I'll be alone, because the way I intend to laugh, it's not like, it's not bishopric.
Yeah, being your own self.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. Thank you so much for that sharing. You know, when we started, you spoke about a pastor going on retreats, taking time out for themselves, away for a day, 2, or even a month.
Yeah.
How does that look like when you mentioned that, you know, people have needs and people are calling? How can one manage that?
Well, personally, what I think, a pastor is not just a spiritual person, he's also a professional person. When we take the pastoral ministry to that professional level, there is need for us to switch off phones.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's just Christians who are mainly ministry focused, but Jesus says it's my Father's business. He looked at ministry from a business perspective, which means it had to be very professional. So I'm thinking, when I go out on holiday, I can have a phone that's meant for very close people, family, that will reach out to me. My family will say there's an emergency or something like that. But the main phone, for example, which carries numbers, like mine carries over 4,000 contacts.
That's quite big.
Yeah, that one I can leave either with my PA or just put it off.
Okay.
Yeah, because we actually need that time. There's a time where people would flock my place back then when we started out in ministry, and you know, you don't put them off because you are hungry for people. They would flock 5 a.m. They are there. They need prayers. They need this and that. So I ended up getting bent out because I didn't even have time to pray. So I told them I'll need some time to pray so that I can actually carry the power that helps you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that sharing. You know, from what you've just mentioned, that you had to actually even tell the people that I need time to pray. You know, it's important to realize that taking care of yourself is not being selfish, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. And when we're talking about this, it's not even from the physical level, even from the spiritual level.
Oh, yes.
For you to be able to tend to the needs of the flock, fill yourself up emotionally, physically, and importantly, spiritually, such that you are grounded and you're able to carry on and do the work that you've been called to do. Let's take a short break to join me in the next segment. Thank you. I think what you were sharing was very enlightening, even for myself, to be able to understand the challenges that the person that I go to also has.
Oh, yeah.
And also how they can take care of themselves. But I'm also now looking at myself as the congregate, as maybe the sheep, you know, in the flock. Are there any ways that I can also help my pastor to be able to operate effectively?
Oh, yes, many of them. Let's start off by just giving compliments.
Okay, compliments.
Yeah,
Okay.
like your sermon was powerful, you changed me. Because many times we doubt ourselves.
That's true.
Am I being effective? Are people being changed by what I am doing? So compliments. You talk of taking time to deliberately, let your pastor off the hook.
What does that look like?
That looks like within your policies, you then actually say Monday is meant for our pastors off. No one goes to their home or their office or anything. It's a day for them to rest.
Okay.
November, for example, is their leave month. So no one will bother the pastor, etc., etc. We then talk of issues to do with actually being deliberate about taking your pastors for counseling. Sometimes
Taking them for counseling.
Yes.
Okay. Is that easy to initiate from your side?
I think it is. It depends with the relationship that you have with the flock. Because on a personal level, I still remember when I fell into depression for a very long time. It took someone to pick it up and tell me, Pastor, you actually need to go for this. Probably, and even organize, if finances permit, even actually pay for some sessions and say, you really need to do this. Because believe it or not, people pick it up when you are not well. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Yeah, welfare committees, just to help our pastors.
Having a committee that tends to them. Okay.
Yes, that actually looks into their well-being. And well-being, we are talking about probably financial, material, we are talking about physical health, everything that concerns them, including the family.
Okay.
So you also have cases where pastors have problems with their own kids because they spend most of their time tending the flocks.
To my kids.
Yes. So you then also need to have an eldership that's very deliberate about that. For example, in my case, I have elders who become pastors to our children because many times when I try to pastor them,
it doesn't work. They are your children, it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I think all of that is critical in helping our pastor. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a myth. I'm just going to throw it as well. It says, pastors, they do not have financial needs because they are pastors, they are collecting the offering. Is that true? Please demystify it for us.
All right. Well, I think pastors, the majority of pastors are in deep financial crisis.
Okay.
Whether because of lack or because they had something but ultimately went into debt. I'm saying so because we have a lot of pastors in our office that we do counseling with. And even the big guys who seem to have it all, you read the papers, they are actually having some challenges financially. On the whole, the myth should be, just exploded, destroyed, because pastors indeed many times are in financial problems. They don't have money. The money that we collect in church is for the service of the church, until a certain time, a certain space where probably church becomes big, people become more mature, policies are in place, so you have pastors who are on the payroll, pastors whose needs are taken care of, and all of that. But it's not every pastor who's had that privilege.
That is quite enlightening actually to know that. So what can we do to also show our appreciation for the pastor? This is also the Pastor's Appreciation Month, if I'm not mistaken?
October, yes. We appreciate the pastors.
What ways can us, the congregants, do that can also just appreciate the pastor?
Okay, like I said, complimenting, making sure that their well-being is taken care of, the welfare, a phone call, just a simple phone call to say, Pastor, how are you? Having some time around them, not bringing problems, but also bringing victories.
That's good.
To just say, because of your ministry, God has raised us, God has done this, or just coming to be with them, taking time to be with them, to watch football, for example, without any strings attached. We are here, but we also have a little bit of a problem somewhere. Pastors need to be appreciated by word and by deed.
True. Thank you so much for that. Viewers, you have been listening, we're enlightened on just, understanding of the needs that a pastor has. This is also the Pastor Appreciation Month. This is someone that stands in for us. When we are mourning, when we are grieving, when we are in joyful moments, when there's someone that is sick, how do we also take care of our pastor? I think it's something that we need just to introspect and just think, am I taking care of my pastor? The person that's taking care of me, am I also giving into them? Am I also taking care of them? Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Do continue in wholeness. Join me in the next episode. Thank you.